Do you know, I often think if someone did a survey into the mental health of people in the United Kingdom, because we know we've got a mental health crisis, don't we? I think if people were to look into it and actually did a sort of cross-tabulation of where these people might be politically, I reckon the woke lot are the ones who have the biggest problems. I reckon they're the ones who are really in the doldrums when it comes to having a healthy mind. Certainly, their mad ideologies don't seem to really help them out. I kind of think they're all a bit mad. But talking about woke and madness and mental health, it turns out that, first of all, The Guardian, Ralph Shulhammer there, laying out some of the brilliant headlines. A lot of people have been having fun with this, that The Guardian have produced over the years. You know, why quinoa's problematic. If you go to the gym, you're probably a fascist, all this sort of mad stuff that they generate. Well, they've decided they've got to get off X because it's not a safe space. And don't you worry, it's not just them fleeing for safety from the perils of, I don't know, talking, sharing opinions, facts, because the Clifton Suspension Bridge has now boycotted X. The irony, and this is why I'm going to link it all back together to what I was saying initially, the irony being, of course, that if you're from the southwest, you know that the Clifton Suspension Bridge is like a suicide hotspot. Right, let's talk now to Austin Williams, social commentator, director of Future Cities Project. Austin, I mean, these poor people, sometimes I don't know whether to laugh or cry on their behalf. They seem really in a bad state if they find that being on a platform such as X, which by and large is people just sharing information, is somehow so dangerous they've got to leave it.
Well, yeah, I was a little bit worried that you were leading into me by talking about woke madness. So I just want to clarify that I'm on the other side in this conversation. No, I mean, I think that there's, apart from the fact that the Clifton Suspension Bridge is an inanimate object, and therefore cannot speak for itself, I suppose we have to do it for it. And it just demonstrates the fact that even the people that you might have thought that was slightly less woke, engineers, creatives, are in fact completely in hock to it. So when The Guardian says that it's going to be leaving Twitter because it's appalled by the content that it finds on there, so within minutes, so also the Clifton Suspension Bridge kind of withdraws itself. I mean, ironically, you know, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the fantastic engineer that designed and constructed the Clifton Suspension Bridge, in many ways was the Elon Musk of his day. Do you know what I mean? Even as much as designing one of the first Hyperloop ideas, the vacuum tube transportation link that he was actually kind of working on very early on in his career. So I think that, you know, they've really kind of misunderstood the idea about what innovation, what new ideas, what thinking, you know, thoughts that maybe The Guardian doesn't consider to be worthy is all about. And I think Twitter is a fantastic tool, fantastic place for having conversations. Some of those are hostile and uncomfortable, but so what? I think we can survive it.
Yeah, do you think we should sort of, on one side, celebrate this and go, well, if you're too lily-livered to just, I don't know, survive in a world where people can say what they think and debate ideas, then good riddance, we'll just stay as a sort of increasingly more sane little collective amongst ourselves? Or do you think that this is actually really bad because we should live in a society where speech isn't controlled, where people shouldn't sort of either be scared of hearing other people's opinions or want to clamp down on them?
Well, of course. I mean, look, I haven't missed Stephen Fry, I have to say, since he left a year or so ago. Jamie Lee Curtis, who I haven't really read much of her stuff, but, you know, there's a lot of people that are now leaving. Don Lemon in America's going. So I think that it's an exodus. Predominantly, it's triggered by the election of Donald Trump and his ally Elon Musk. And so these are people that are hostile to that political persuasion. And instead of being big enough, man enough to argue the toss and stand up for their own political ideas, they'd rather run away with their handbags and hide in the corner or go into Blue Sky or you know, Mastodon or whatever it is. So I think that that's part of a problem, that they'd rather be in an echo chamber reflecting their own petty snowflake ideas than they would actually having the battles out on a real public forum. That's the problem.
Do you think that this is sort of indicative of a turning point, though? I mean, I get the impression the EU clearly wanted to sort of get rid of X. Thierry Breton, who's the Information Commissioner, a lovely title that, you know, did his best, really, saying he was going to fine Elon Musk or he was going to pull the plug on X in the EU if Elon Musk didn't kowtow to all of his demands. That now that Donald Trump is in power and Elon Musk is part of that administration, that the idea of closing down X is for the birds, basically, because actually, as a big economy, Donald Trump could strike back on his behalf. And so, as a result, perhaps instead, those people who've realised they've lost that game are now going down a different route, which has been set in motion for a long time now, which is, well, perhaps anything you put on there could be investigated. Rather than go after the company, they now want to go after the individuals. And I say that because of what's happened to Allison Pearson, the veteran Telegraph columnist who found on Remembrance Sunday her door being knocked by policemen. On Remembrance Sunday of all days, the day that we remember fighting fascism and authoritarianism. And when she said, well, what have I done? It's a post you put up. When? A year ago. What did I say? We can't tell you that. Who's reported me? We can't tell you that. They're the victim. I mean, this stuff it's chilling.
Well, it is, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is that Joe Rogan, one of the people that really knows how to use Twitter, as one of the biggest followers in the world, is actually showing Britain to be a laughingstock with its kind of abuse of free speech and legislation. And Elon Musk has basically come out today saying how appalling it is that Allison Pearson is being kind of pilloried and attacked. And as you say, threatened with charges, non-criminal charges, non-crime hate incidents and all this kind of stuff, which has been revived by Yvette Cooper when even the Tories were thinking about maybe easing off a little bit. But he's basically said that, this is an appalling arena for censorship, whereas in fact Twitter should be a place where you can have free and open, frank conversations. And I think what's actually happened to Allison Pearson is symptomatic. I mean, in some ways you could argue that after the Southport riots, that idea that, first they came for the plebs, but I wasn't concerned because I wasn't a pleb. Now they're coming after middle-class liberal journalist commentators, and I think some middle-class people are right to recognise that this is a wider problem, that it's not confined to certain people with certain opinions. It could be anybody, because A, they don't tell you what it is that you said incorrectly, and B, they are now looking for those opinions which go against the grain. And I think this is a real dangerous moment we're living through.
Yeah, I was just speaking to Ralph Schulhammer, who's an academic over in Vienna, about this, and he was talking about they're going after political parties in countries that want to control immigration. They're using lawfare. Now we're talking about they're trying to use people like Allison Pearson as an example to the rest of us to build prisons, I would say, inside our minds. Not very good at building the physical infrastructure for real criminals. What they want to do is make all of us think we better watch what we say. The problem I have is, who are they? I still struggle to get who they are. Who are the one who, I don't know, phoned the police and got the police mobilised to go knock on her door? Why did the police take this so seriously? And what is a non-crime hate charge? Surely if it's not a crime, you can't be charged. What is going on, Austin?
Well, I mean, you may not know who they are, but you certainly will know it when you see it. And in some ways, it's a vindicative charter, isn't it? But basically anybody now can suggest that they have been appalled or offended, or they perceive that they have been vilified by some of your actions or your words. Exactly what a hate crime is that idea that the perception of a so-called victim. So anybody who perceives that you are insulting their protected characteristics, whatever they may be, even if you're not on the receiving end, if you're a bystander, if you're listening in to somebody having those kind of conversations, they can be offended on other people's behalf and report you. And they will report you to the normal channels, the police. And the police then end up going around. And as Allison Pearson was making out, the police were slightly embarrassed. But however embarrassed they were still fulfilling their duty of actually threatening her with arrest as a criminal charge, even though no crime had taken place. So this is, really, really dangerous. And when I was watching the TV the other day, watching the BBC News, no offense to talk radio, but the BBC Russian correspondent looking at that woman who was arrested for saying critical things about Russia's war in the Ukraine, and she's got 5 years imprisonment. Now, people got 5 years imprisonment for tweeting in this country, right? So while the BBC kind of looks to the authoritarianism of Russia and says, haha, at least we're not Russia, what a terrible country they are, actually, they miss the irony. Because actually, it's very, very similar what's happening over here. And it's a very, very daunting prospect in the future. It's going to get worse.
Oh, blimey. Do you know what? I think it is. I'm waiting for myself. I'm waiting for my own martyrdom. Come on, knock at my door, why don't you? Austin Williams, thanks you ever so much for joining us on this. And it does feel a bit like that. I started writing a little piece today, actually, on the tube coming here, because my mind is swimming with all of this stuff. And what happened to Allison Pearson, who I know very well. Lovely, normal, moderate, veteran journalist, a great woman. She doesn't say mad things. She's not full of hate. She's the most sort of, not in a nice way, the most ordinary person you could care to meet. As in, she's not balmy, she's not batty. She's a great journalist. And you kind of think, well, when's the knock going to come at my door? I can't tell you how many nights I go to bed with a sort of little knot in my stomach thinking, did I go too far today? Did I say something that I'm going to be sort of called into an office and said, you better tone it down a bit, Alex. You're not allowed to think that. You're not allowed to say that. And I've been trying to figure out what's gone on and who is behind this. And part of me kind of thinks, go on then, knock at my door, why don't you? I'm ready for you. Come on, phone up the coppers, tell them all Alex is a monster. Because if those coppers knock on my door and say you tweeted something a year ago and now we've got reason to come and knock at your door, I'll just say, mate, I think you got the wrong address. I'm not going to play the game anymore. And this is what I talk about, the prison in your mind. We all, because it's in our mind, have the ability to break out of that prison. We could decide we're not going to be in that prison anymore. If you don't want to use someone's pronouns, don't. You don't have to. I mean, yes, there might be ramifications at work. That's up to you whether you're willing to take that risk. But I think if the more of us just say, I'm not playing the game anymore, the better it will be.